welcome back to Getaway Day. As always, I am Mason, he is Galtham, and we are back recording on a Wednesday night for the first time in 3-ish weeks.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah,
Good to be back.
It is good to be back. It feels a little weird, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit not sure what's going on because I have to work tomorrow. So it's like, what? But yeah, so we're going to get right into it. We just got through the All-Star break. So we're kind of kicking off the second half in air quotes. We got about 65-ish games left in the season for most teams. So we're past the halfway mark, but the All-Star break is kind of when people consider the first half, second half of the season, right?
Yep. And obviously with 60 plus games left, there's still lots of season to go. Lots of things can change.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people kind of do treat it kind of as first half, second half, that the way they do, because most players get like 4 or 5 days off in a row, a little bit of time to rest, recuperate, and sometimes that can help reset somebody coming out of the break, or maybe someone is hot coming into the break and then they start out cold because they got time to rest, right?
Could be, yeah.
So we've got some storylines from the first half that I kind of want to make a statement. And if you want more context around the statement, I guess you can ask for it. But it's kind of like a free form. I'm going to make a statement. We talk about it on if we agree, disagree, what have you. How's that sound to you?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. So let's go ahead and do the first one. And I think the first one, we're going to start out with Aaron Judge is hands down the American League MVP. No ifs, ands, or buts.
I'd say yes today, but I don't know about hands down. I don't know. We already talked about this with Gunnar kind of trailing him offensively, but doing so many other things on the diamond, whether it be base running or defense. Obviously, putting up a insane season in his own right. But yeah, Judge would be my MVP if we were voting today.
Yeah, so the reason that I wanted to bring it back up is because Aaron Judge, through 96 games, is at 34 home runs, which when he came out of the All-Star break last year, or not last year, sorry, 2022, he had about 30. It was either 33 or 36 home runs. Like
I thought it was less.
Was it?
I thought he had more home runs like before July than he did in 2022.
Before July, yes, but I think he started going on a tear at the beginning of July in 2022.
But regardless, he was on a similar pace.
Yes, very similar pace. He's actually projected by most projection systems to hit between 18 and 22 more home runs, which 22 would put him at 56. If he hits only 56 home runs, I think there's a very real world in which Gunnar takes the MVP from him. Because, like, yeah, Judge is hitting 300. Walks 17% of the time.
Smiling at you saying only 56 home runs.
Well, I mean, the man hit 62, so like
yeah,
if he's
I know.
Like 56 feels pedestrian.
It really does. And if you think back to 22, wasn't there a stretch like right before he hit number 61 where he didn't hit a home run for like a week?
Yeah.
A week plus or something?
Yeah, I think it was like a week.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I think he's going to hit 60 again this year.
It's mean,
not that far-fetched.
I also think he's going to hit 60, but I feel like if he doesn't, then because the story isn't quite as grand, and Gunnar is a better defender, I do think that Judge not hitting 60 home runs again is going to give the MVP to Gunnar. Like, it's kind of like if Judge wouldn't have hit 62, Shohei would have won it that year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, And I guess I'll say about Gunner, like he's obviously a great player, superstar player, but we don't know if this is a level that's sustainable for him. Like he's done it for this half season, but this is a like multiple steps above what he did last year. So it's hard to say like, oh, this is Gunnar Henderson and this is what he's going to continue being for a long time. With Judge, it's almost it's way easier to project what he's actually going to do in the second half because we've seen this just 2 years ago. We've seen how good he was last year as well. It's like he's at that level. He remains at that level. He's going to be great.
So let me throw two more names in here at you, just because they are also incredibly close to these other two and they don't get talked about quite as much. One of them being Bobby Witt Jr., who is on pace for another 30-50 season, I think. 30-40 at least. Batting over 323 with a 369 OBP, a little less slug than Gunner, significantly less than Judge, but he's at 5.7 WAR compared to the other guys 6.1 and 6.3. And then Juan Soto, who walks more than he strikes out, and he walks 18% of the time, with 23 home runs right now, batting right next to Aaron Judge, arguably better at his position defensively than Judge is at his, but that's a really misleading statement based on right field, center field. But I do think those guys could also, with a hot streak there in the second half, take it away. So the way that I phrased the question originally, Aaron Judge has it in the bag, no ifs, ands, or buts. False. Disagree.
Yeah, I'm on disagree too, but I definitely make him the favorite, like the clear favorite.
Yes, I agree. And that question was very much teed up knowing what the response was going to be. But I wanted to set up this next question with that question.
All right.
So we just talked about four guys in the American League that are all playing phenomenally and are all actually the top four guys in not just the American League, but all of the major leagues in WAR. In Aaron Judge, Gunner, Bobby Witt, Juan Soto, in that order. The National League, on the other hand, it is a one-horse race. This is the statement. The National League MVP is a one-horse race, and that horse is named Shohei.
Yeah, I think that's got to be true at this point. With Mookie Betts getting injured, I think he was like the leading candidate before he got hurt. And then Shohei has just been remarkable in his batting only season where uh, he's just dominated. And usually the DHs get dinged for, oh, this guy doesn't play the field. But the offensive numbers are so mind-bogglingly good. It's like there's no other competitor. Who else would you even consider to vote for?
Yeah, so Shohei is fourth in the major leagues in batting average. He is second in slug. I believe he is also
The Judge, I'm sure.
Yeah, to Judge, and it's not even that far off. Like
No, it's not.
Judge is a 679 slug, which is insane. He's what, a 1.12 OPS. Judges. Shohei is at a 1.035 OPS, which I think is still second in the majors. When you look at WRC plus, Shohei is second. WAR, Shohei is leading the National League. Shohei is second in WOBA. He is like okay, walk rate's not like top 16 in walk rate, which is really impressive when you look at some of the other names on there. Like, just everything about Shohei screams number one or two in the league is a hitter, not or across all of MLB, not just the National League. So it does seem like it's a one-horse race, but some of the guys behind him that are like maybe the closest, just purely looking at the WAR leaderboard, is saying if we give it to the guy with the most WAR, The next two guys would be Ellie De La Cruz, which that amazed me. I did not think that he would be second in the entire National League. It just feels something feels a little dirty about that because of how often Ellie strikes out.
He's such a unique player. There's nobody like Ellie with that combination of power, speed, uh, like really bad strikeout rate, and I mean that those players exist. But
Yeah,
then when
but
you add in like
a player with 17 home runs and 46 steals at the All-Star break, who
yeah,
still
that
walks
doesn't happen.
11% of the time, striking out 31, like with stellar defense and one of the best infield arms in the game. Like, I feel like his is very much helped out by his defense.
So this kind of brings me to a question about the MVP in general. Are we looking for the best player, or are we looking for most valuable to their team, or most valuable? How do you define it?
So to me, it would be the most valuable. It doesn't like to their team. Or no, sorry. It like it doesn't have to be the most accomplished player, like the most RBIs and the most like counting stats sort of thing. But to me, it's the guy who impacts the game the most. And if you removed him from that team or the league, the numbers would just drop out the floor.
But when you say that, you don't mean strictly in a take them out of their team context. It's like
Like,
take them out of the game. So then really it is just
yeah.
the best player.
Yeah. So I guess my point being, I'm not going to punish a 2012 Andrew McCutchen if he were on this Pirates team, or like a 2018 Pirates team, but that version of Kutch. I'm not going to punish Kutch because his team sucks. And so therefore his RBI numbers are down. If he's producing the way he's producing and he's like the win probability added and like all of these other things that come with his numbers and his play, I think those are incredibly important. Like Shohei is phenomenal. If you removed him from his team specifically, the team, I mean, we could just look at last year and that's what that team would be. Like, it's a great team still. Shohei is taking it to another level, but as far as like bang for your buck sort of thing, he's maybe not the most valuable in that sense. But if you were to remove him from the game of baseball, he would also have the biggest impact as far as like league-wide stats and like these numbers that you were that we were talking about I think right before we started recording, about this being one of the worst league hitting years. Well, if you take out Shohei's numbers alone, that looks so much worse. Like he's
Yeah, I never really thought about it like that, but yeah, that makes sense. I I'm wondering, like, to go back to Judge actually. If you take Judge out of there, obviously they have Soto, but he feels extra important to the Yankees team because the
yes.
supporting cast doesn't feel nearly as strong as like the Dodgers, for example. But even the Dodgers, if you look at what the bottom of their order has done, um, and you add one more guy like that to like your Chris Taylor and Miguel Rojas and Gavin Lux, those guys have actually been really bad this year.
Yeah.
Then Shohei actually is, um, in the remove him from the team context, an MVP like that too. I think the Dodgers might not be as good as they would, like they'd be a lot worse without him.
Yeah.
So I'd
So
even give him credit there.
yeah, I agree with you. Let's look at it from like the standpoint of someone who doesn't necessarily fit both of those contexts. Like if we removed Ellie from the game of baseball, one, the Reds would be way worse. Like he is a lot of their offensive production. Run scored, he's got 64 on the year, which is up kind of, it's top 10 in the league.
Yeah.
So RBIs, he's not really that high in the RBIs. I think he's in the 40s. But with his steals, his runs scored, his home runs, like he single-handedly powers that team to some victories. And nobody can argue that point. Like that's their shoot, scrolled on me. They are 47 and 50. They've scored 432 runs. You remove Ellie, they're down to 370 runs, which is worse than all but like 8 teams in the majors. And I realize it's not a 1-to-1. You don't just remove him and someone doesn't replace him. Like there's going to be production from someone else, but huge hit to the Reds. To the league as a whole, yes, but it's less impactful than a Shohei or a Judge or even a guy who's ever so slightly behind him, in my opinion, in Bryce Harper. Like I think Bryce is maybe closer to an MVP than Ellie to me right now, because he does do every facet of hitting. The only thing that Bryce doesn't do that Ellie does is steal. And Bryce still has 4. Like he's not like a complete inept base runner.
Yeah.
But like he hits 300. He is OPSing almost 1,000, which Ellie is at like 800 and something. He's got more home runs. He walks more. He strikes out way less. Like
to be honest, like I didn't realize the season Bryce was having. Like I knew he was doing well, but I didn't realize it was this good.
Yeah. But then even like you look at just even WRC plus and it that almost takes Ellie out of the conversation, unless you're really, really looking at defense. But unfortunately, most people that seem to vote for these don't really take defense in that much.
Yeah.
So I think that alone kind of will take Ellie out of consideration from a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
So,
but anyways, I think this whole conversation is just, we're just trying to find other guys to talk about other than Shohei, because for the actual question, there's no contest right now.
Yeah, it's a 1-horse race, and I fully agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so talked about MVPs. I'm not going to go directly to another award, but Garrett Crochet has made a lot of waves this year in the pitching world. After his first 7 starts, he has been pitching like a Cy Young. Like I think after his first 7 starts, he's pitching to the tune of like a 1.4 or something, I think, ERA. And just he's been awesome. Made the All-Star game. The White Sox actually had 2 All-Stars. The White Sox. They had Fetty and Crochet, which is amazing.
Fetty was an All-Star?
I think so.
Oh, really?
But yeah, but given the fact that Crochet is with this, Fetty was not. Okay, I don't know why I thought Fetty was.
Because he's having a great season. I mean, he's up there at the leaders in like pitching more.
Maybe that's why I thought he was. He probably should have been. But okay, so they had 2 All-Stars, only one actually got it. But there's a lot of rumors about Crochet getting traded. And White Sox fans are not going to like that if he does. But it does look like a very real probability, I think. But does he become a contender's number 2 or 3 starter for the rest of the season? And why or why not?
I'm gonna take a quick tangent here. So when I heard that Garrett Crochet was gonna be in the starting rotation this year, I scoffed at it. I was like, this guy is not gonna be a starter, because first off, he never started in the minors, and he didn't even like start in the in college baseball or something.
Well,
he literally like last started when he was in high school.
Crochet didn't really play in the minors.
Well, that too, but like
yeah, because he got drafted and came up in 2020, didn't he?
Right, but that's multiple seasons of him being a reliever only, never made any starts, right, as a pro.
Yeah.
And that's just generally not like a recipe for success. Um, and obviously I was completely wrong about that. He's been awesome, as you've been mentioning here. The thing that might scare teams off is that lack of track record and the fact that he's already surpassed his career high in innings pitched in a season.
I don't think he's past his career high. I think he's past his career total.
Yeah,
Like
probably. That's probably true.
I'll double check that, but it's pretty close, I think.
Yeah, so it's almost like
Yeah, so this season he has 107 and a third innings. Uh Before that, he had 73 total.
yeah. So if you're a team, do you ease off him because you've got him for multiple years, or do you just say whatever, let's go for it, let's just like go all in with Garrett Crochet?
Yeah, because
Because obviously he makes every team that he would get traded to better, and maybe it's a situation where he becomes like a multi-inning reliever or something that can
yeah,
go max it out and not have to build up like a whole bunch of innings just to like ease his workload a little bit.
yeah. So you have 3 more years of Crochet after the second half this year, and we have like 2 weeks, I think, from when we're recording this to the deadline because it's July 31st, right?
July 30th.
July 30th. Okay, so we have 13 days. Um, I need to think the White Sox already had a plan to start limiting his innings a little bit because, like, if they keep him, they want to try and compete in the future. They don't want to blow his arm out. If they trade him, any team that gets him wants him to pitch in the postseason because the way he's pitching now, he could get you or help get you a World Series rotation straight up as probably the number two, if not the number one, depending on the team. Um,
He almost
so
feels like a perfect fit for like the Dodgers because they wouldn't have to worry about getting to the postseason. That's like a given for that team. They just need to ease him through, let him continue to pitch, obviously, because he's got to stay sharp, and then they'll be ready to go for the postseason. Like ramp him back up in September.
yeah, and that's what going into like the 4th of July weekend, Matthew and I driving out to Pittsburgh were listening to MLB Network Radio, and a lot of the guys or a lot of the analysts on there were basically talking about how teams are probably going to throw him in the bullpen, and then at the beginning of September start stretching him back out and have him ready for the postseason. And I don't know if that's necessarily because I feel like that would just be weird on your arm over the course of a year for a guy who's one just starting for the first time. Like I feel like that ramp up, ramp down, ramp back up would be a little awkward without having an off season. I don't know that you'd come back necessarily as crisp. I don't have any reason to say that he wouldn't, but it just I feel like I wouldn't be able to do it, so it wouldn't shock me if he couldn't either. Um,
Are you comparing yourself to Garrett Crochet?
I am, yeah,
Okay, that's what I
uh,
thought.
yeah, no, but what if like he goes to the Dodgers and they do like a 6-man rotation piggyback start situation where he
Yeah,
goes 3 or 4, someone else goes 3 or 4, and then they close out the game.
they
Like,
could do that.
I feel like that would be a way that you could limit his innings, still getting him kind of the Paul Skeens treatment, to be honest, this year in AAA, where it's like they kind of babied him along 3 innings, 4 innings, and then finally the last 2 before he comes to the majors, 6 innings. And then now Skeens will go 107 pitches, like, and go 7 1/3 innings, and they not have much of a care. They're like, yeah, you're the horse, go for it. It kind of feels like that might be an effective way to do it, keeping him stretched, but also allowing him more time and less stress on the arm.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I guess getting back to the main question of how did I phrase that? Garrett Crochet will instantly become a team's number 2 starter. If that's what they go with, I mean, I guess technically it doesn't really feel like a true number 2. It's almost like they're putting him in the back of the closet for a bit just to get him back out later, kind of like your raincoat in
Yeah,
summer.
but who knows? Maybe like the conventional wisdom and like everything everyone has said is that a team would do this. But what if a team says, "No, he's good. He can just pitch like a normal starter as he's been doing all season. Just let him go." I mean, that could happen too. We don't know.
That's true.
It's not likely, but I'm just throwing it out there. Then
So
he's certainly a number 2 to answer your question. But otherwise I guess I can't call him a 2 because I doubt he's going to be used like a number 2 starter.
so I guess in your heart of hearts, do you agree or disagree? I get that we both have a I agree in this situation, I disagree in this. In
Yeah,
your
I
heart of
disagree.
hearts, disagree?
Most likely outcome, I disagree. Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I guess follow up question: does he actually get traded? Because
Yeah.
his
Yeah,
value
he
is
does.
right now is high.
You
Like
got
it
to
is
trade him.
high.
Like this is the unfortunate um downside of his whole situation where he's not started a lot. To me, he has increased injury risk not for this season but for next season, where some of the effects of all the workload can catch up to a pitcher that just hasn't done it before.
Yeah. So would he end up getting not quite a Juan Soto haul when he went to the Padres? Because nobody's gonna get that. Um, but like a I don't want to say average because it's only average compared to Juan Soto, but like a really good starter version of a Juan Soto deal where you're getting a couple of really high level prospects and then you're getting like one or two mid levels and maybe a low level.
Yeah, it's really interesting because right off the top of my head, I can't really think of comps for a pitcher trade like this, right? Because really good young pitchers with 3 years of control don't get traded ever.
Yeah.
And here's the scenario where it's going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a pretty substantial haul, actually, now that I think about it.
But
Um,
does that get dinged to like one top level, three mid, and a low based on the fact that he's already passed his career innings and that teams are going to want to limit him, so therefore his value's not as high. Does that
well, with
affect
the
it?
multi year, I don't know if it affects it as much because of the multi years. Like, I feel like that kind of cancels some of the workload concerns for this year out. I do think, as far as like the return they would get, it depends on both the team they're trading with and what they're looking for. With the White Sox, they're almost looking for like really young, like they want to maybe take a. It depends what approach they want. Do they want to take a bunch of lottery tickets? Do they just want to focus on like one top 100 prospect and then something lesser, or do they want like five mid-tier prospects, which they probably don't, right? I don't know.
Yeah. But they're also in just a bit of a weird situation where they have a couple of really good pitching prospects who are actually pretty close. I mean, Drew Thorpe has already debuted in the majors. They have
Noah Schultz.
Noah Schultz, thank you. That's the one I was trying to think of, who is, I believe it, double? Or is that
I
Colson?
would. I'm guessing use that double.
So Colson Montgomery, shortstop, is it. Okay, so he's at double. Ashley, where's Colson's at triple? Cool, that's what I.
Triple A. Yeah.
So yeah. But so they have a couple of really highly touted prospects, really talented prospects that are close. And so like you don't necessarily want to get a bunch of like high risk, high reward 18-year-olds because you're already going to have Colson, Noah, Drew Thorpe, Corey Lee, some of these young guys who do have a lot of like hope for their future. Um,
I got no hope.
Well, the players have hope for their future, and the team has hope for the players. The team as a whole, debatable. But like, it feels they're in a weird spot where it's like you kind of don't necessarily want to get two prospects that are ready next year because the team's not ready next year. Straight up. But also, you don't want guys that are 6 years away.
you might want to just start the 5-year rebuild plan right now.
I mean, you don't have to do any tearing down. Does that take
pieces to trade?
Well, yeah, but does that take a year off the 5 years because they don't have to tear down?
Maybe
it's like when you're building a house.
I'm joking. I'm joking. There's no 5-year plan anymore. But like they just got to get more talent, like whatever age it is, because you can always flip your talent for older talent in the future.
True.
And you don't necessarily have to like think about the timeline of the players that you're receiving back in the trade because they can be flipped themselves.
That's true. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next little statement here. The currently 58-37 Cleveland Guardians will finish with the number 1 seed in the American League heading into the postseason.
I am definitely out on the Guardians winning the American League record this year.
Out on the Guardians?
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool. Great story. Probably the best story of any team this year. Just being a total surprise. Mason's last place pick for the AL Central. And they're leading the American League at the All-Star break. That's cool.
Yeah, I said last place at being bad. I'm pretty sure. If you go back and look at that, I like kind of choked a little bit, so like I was real quiet at the end.
Go to New York. We need a replay review.
Yeah, the progressive replay review or whatever that commercial is.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. They just feel like everything's gone right for that team, and I think they're unfortunately gonna take a little bit of a step back, especially with some of their offensive guys that have made this happen. Like David Fry, he's already cooled off a lot. Some of these other minor contributors that have just popped off for weeks at a time. Like I still don't have like faith that the offense is all of a sudden amazing or something.
But let me throw this at you. They have only allowed 369 runs on the season. There are 5 American League teams who've given up less than 400 runs so far this year. So they also have the second highest run differential. So like they're really good on both sides of both halves of the inning right now. So if one falters, they still have the ability to go out and put up a 550, 600 winning percentage, which right now, I think if you finish with like a 611 winning percentage, which is what they have right now, I think you might be in first place in the league.
Yeah, but I'm just making the case that I don't think they're going to keep up the same level of play in the second half. The other part is the bullpen. Their pitching numbers look so good because their bullpen's leading the league in ERA by like over half a run over the second team or something crazy like that. How can you expect that to stay like that for the whole year? I don't.
I mean, yeah, it does feel kind of sketch. It feels a little bit Martin Perez in his great season in Texas. But at the same time, like some of the guys that are doing that in Cleveland's bullpen have a track record of doing that, period. Like Clase, always dominates.
Yeah,
Like not
he is on his
necessarily
own.
to this ERA level, but not too far off either.
Yeah, no,
So
he's great.
and
But
they've got another couple guys that I think might actually be this good as relievers. And so like yeah, they might not lead the league by half a run in ERA the whole year, but I still think they'll finish in like the best bullpen in the league by the end of the
yeah, they've
season.
got a good lead.
So I don't know. I'm with you. I disagree that they'll be the number one. I think that's going to end up being the winner of the AL East. And
Yeah, that's
I'm
what it
not
feels like.
stating a team name there because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those teams
It's
feel like they're on a different level than Cleveland to me. Those teams feel like the two best teams in the American League and
and
just more complete.
it really feels like there's only one other team in the MLB that's on their level as well in Philly.
Yeah, I mean the Dodgers could definitely get there, right?
They could get there, but they're not there right now, is my point.
Yeah.
So, right. Do we have any more? I have one more. I don't know that I really like it. You got one for me? Hit me with one.
I was gonna ask. This one's not a agree or disagree. It was just a question if you had any teams that you thought um, people in general are just kind of sleeping on for the second half. Maybe a team that's like underperformed a little bit, a team that could get hot and make an Arizona Diamondbacks type run into the postseason and then go from there.
So that actually reminds me of one that I skipped over here and completely forgot about. I Houston, if they get healthy, I think they're that team. Like Houston has been out of it like most of the year. They started out after 36 games, 12-24. Like they were like one of the four worst teams in the MLB or three worst teams in the MLB through 36 games. That's a significant stint of time in a 162 game season. Well, they have now climbed back up to second place in the division with a 50-46 record. Like St. Louis and them have kind of done the same thing all year. And like I talk about St. Louis a lot, so it feels like St. Louis gets talked about a lot because it's just me and what I pay attention to. But I feel like the same has not been said for Houston.
Houston never gets talked about.
Well, exactly. And so I think that's a team that like they've been to 7 straight American League Championship series. So like people know that they're good and that this team is mostly the same, but they were so bad at the beginning of the year that I think everyone's like, okay, that run's over.
Pretty much.
So sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you take out those first 36 games, they've just been like the regular old Astros, which is
Yeah.
just a really good team.
Yeah.
So,
And so I think they're the easy pick for the team that everyone's sleeping on.
yeah. I think I don't even think you're allowed to pick them because they've already got back to their regular level and they've already closed all the ground basically in their division race. They're right there in it. It's not even like a question that they're going to be competitive in the second half, I think.
Well, if that's part of the stipulation, like Kansas City's already proven that they're good, so I can't really pick them either then. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't really
I got
think
one. I got one that I'm thinking of. I think it's the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks, I feel like on this podcast, we have not talked about the Diamondbacks for like 1 minute this entire season. It feels like that.
I don't think so. I don't think we have.
So the reason we never talk about the Diamondbacks is they seem to have struggled basically like through the year, and it starts with Corbin Carroll, who's having a really dreadful follow up to his awesome Rookie of the Year season last year. He's been really bad. He's shown a couple flashes. I don't know what's going on with Corbin Carroll. I'll have to kind of dig into that a little bit more. I haven't looked at what's going on with him. I just know that surface number is really really bad.
He's not going to be
And
Kyle Lewis too, is he?
there's no way, man. There's no chance, right?
I mean, I don't think the likelihood of that is high, but It's just him being this bad this year is giving me flashbacks to Kyle Lewis.
Yeah. But beyond Corbin Carroll, the team does a lot of stuff really well. Like they actually have a good offense despite the struggles of Corbin Carroll. One of the best offenses in the month of July, I believe. They're getting really good production from Christian Walker, Lourdes Gurriel. Um, Jock Peterson is like doing typical Jock Peterson stuff where he just mashes righties um, a lot. Um, I kind of like this team, and they're only like 7 games or 7.5 games out of the division race. I'm not saying that they're getting back into that, but while this National League kind of remains in major flux, they're about to get healthier too. They're going to get Merrill Kelly back in August. I think Eduardo Rodriguez, who has not pitched a game for the Diamondbacks, is making his way back. Zach Gallen already came back from his injury.
Jordan Montgomery is definitely going to regress to the mean and not be a 6.44 ERA guy with 3 walks per 9 and less than 7 Ks per 9. Like, that's not Jordan Montgomery. I truly believe he is better than that and will be better than that in the second half. So, like, yeah, and
so they got like a lot of
in this team's Achilles heel has been pitching. I mean, they have a positive run differential, but that is only because they are one of the highest scoring teams in Major League Baseball. Like, is there a team that's scored 500 runs yet on the season? There is not. There are 490. There's a 480.
Are they really like?
There's a so there's a 488, and they are at 482, second in the major leagues in runs scored this year.
To the Phillies?
Not to the Phillies. The Phillies have less runs scored than them at 477. It is to the New York Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's amazing, right? The Diamondbacks have more runs scored than the Dodgers this year, which is impressive.
So if they get that rotation and some semblance of a bullpen going in the second half, yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a team that sitting right there, a game above 500 in a wild card race that you only have to be 3 games above 500 to have a wild card spot. Yeah, I think they could make some moves here, and they could pretty easily pass up 2, if not all 3 wild card teams if they go on a run.
I don't see why not. Yeah.
I like that pick. Right. I think that is really all I've got for my agree or disagree. So let us know on social media or in the YouTube comments or however you want to reach us. If you want to email me at getawaydaypod@gmail.com and tell me I'm stupid, go for it. I'll respond and tell you, no, you're stupid. I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. But we'll have fun doing it. But yeah, so let us know if we're right, if we're wrong, what other crazy or not crazy statements that you either agree or disagree with. I don't know. Engage with us. Let's have some conversation. It'll be fun. Otherwise, we will see you next week, recording live on Wednesday on Twitch at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And episodes will go live Thursday at whatever time it gets posted, and Monday at whatever time it gets posted. So thank you very much, and we will see you next time. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.